Hello and welcome everyone to today's webinar, From Under the Radar to All the Rage, Family Resource Centers and Family Resource Center Networks. My name is Robin Shumwell and I'm the Projects and Communications Manager for the National Family Support Network. To let you folks know a couple of housekeeping items today, the recording of this webinar and the materials for the webinar will be made available on our website by this time tomorrow. You are able to chat with us in the chat box and also submit questions in the Q&A as well. Your line has been muted to ensure clear connection for everyone and clear sound. And we do have tech support available in the room. Felipe is available via chat. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop those in the chat and Felipe will be able to respond to you. Felipe has also just dropped in the chat today's material, a link to today's materials that will include, like I mentioned, a copy of today's slides, as well as other materials that will be mentioned during our time. So to get started for today's webinar, I would like to find out who is in the room with us today. So we're going to launch a poll and find out where folks are from. If you do not see your particular region of the globe represented on this map here of the US, pop in the poll, let us know that you're other international, and then let us know in the chat where you're from. We'll give a couple more seconds here. And you should see a window pop up on your screen too for polls and quizzes, and definitely keep letting us know in the chat if that's not available to you. Awesome. Great. All right, let's see the results of this poll. Okay, so we do. Ooh, I must have missed in the chat. If you're other international, let us know where you're from. I'm missing some of this here. We have folks from all across the US and from the Big Island in Hawaii. Hello to our folks in the Pacific as well. And then I would like to launch one more poll here. Would love to know what your affiliation is. So Felipe will launch that poll for us. Do you work for a family resource center? Or perhaps it's not quite a family resource center, but it's a different type of family support program. Let us know here in the poll. Perhaps you work at the network level, or perhaps you are not an FRC, but you're in early care and education. Or perhaps you are coming here today as a parent leader. Let us know here in the poll. And if one of these categories doesn't fit you, let us know in the chat if you're in another one. Oh, hi to my Midwesterners. I see my folks in my hometown of Madison, Wisconsin there. I hope you're doing okay in the snow. All right, go ahead and close out this poll and let's find out. Okay, so we have almost 40% of folks here in the room are from the Family Resource Center. And then over 50% combined from family support programs, including FRCs. Do have some government folks here. And again, like I said, let us know. I see a health plan care manager in the chat, DCYF caseworker, CASA advocate, so another family strengthening support program, absolutely AmeriCorps representative for Resource Center. Great. Thank you, folks, for letting us know who is in the room. So to give you an idea of what we'll be doing during our time today for the webinar, we are going to talk all about FRCs, my favorite topic. We're going to talk about Family Resource Center networks, the NFSN, and then NFSN resources and opportunities. The concept of family support dates back to the late 1800s with the creation of settlement houses in major metropolitan areas such as New York, Boston, Chicago, and San Francisco. Settlement houses provided the large number of immigrants entering the country at the time with support, job training, English classes, and social advocacy as a means to assist them in understanding, adapting to, and succeeding in American society. This slide illustrates the Good Samaritan Settlement House in San Francisco on the left from 1913, and on the right, its modern look as the Good Samaritan Family Resource Center that continues to serve families today. Originally serving immigrants from Europe, Good Samaritan has evolved with the changing community needs and shifts in the neighborhood population into a family resource center serving the Latino community. Thousands of family resource centers have emerged organically across the country, yet their existence is still largely under the radar as what we like to call America's best kept secret. A family resource center, simply put, is a community or school based welcoming hub of support, services, and opportunities designed to support families to be strong and successful. They may be community based, like the image on the left of a family resource center in Vermont, or they may be school based, like the image you see on the right from Kentucky. They may be in rural settings, like the image on the left you see from Colorado, or in urban settings, like the image on the right of a family resource center in the Bronx in New York City. Wherever they are based, FRCs work with families with an approach that is not only two generational, but multi generational, strengths based, and family centered. And each of these concepts is important. Have you heard of two gen or two generational work? Well, family support is the original, not just two gen, but multi gen work, as programs work with parents, children, and grandparents as well. They are strengths based because we see families as having strengths that we want to support them to build upon. And they are family centered because everything we do has families at the center. Family resource centers are designed for all families, not only low income or highly challenged ones, so the support they provide is non stigmatized, making it more readily accessible. Programming is provided at no cost or low cost for participants. The image to the right is of a family success center in New Jersey. There are 57 family success centers across all of the state's 21 counties. Each county has at least one, and typically more than one family success center. That includes highly affluent counties as well as highly challenged counties, because again, the belief is that all families could benefit from access to support for two of the most important roles we can have as adults, being parents and being spouses or partners. Two of the most important roles we could have, for which we typically receive no support or training, hence the value of universal access to family resource centers. I have another question for you folks here. Would love to know what your familiarity is with the Strengthening Families Protective Factors. So how familiar are you with the Strengthening Families Protective Factors? Let us know here in the poll. All right, we'll go ahead and see the results here. Let's see how familiar folks are. Okay, so we are almost evenly divided in quarters here. Got a quarter of the room of folks not familiar with the protective factors, a quarter somewhat familiar, and then so on and so forth. So about quarter with about 16% very familiar. So the Strengthening Families Protective Factors come from the Center for the Study of Social Policy. Research has shown that these five protective factors increase family stability, enhance child development, and reduce child abuse and neglect. So, as we are working with families, we want to support them to build these protective factors because we know they make a positive difference. As you see, the factors here on this screen are parental resilience, social connections, concrete support in times of need, knowledge of parenting and child development, and social and emotional competence of children. You can visit the CSSP website here that's listed on the screen. Again, you'll have access to these slides so that you can click directly and learn more about the Strengthening Families Protective Factors. There is no dedicated federal funding for FRCs, unlike Head Start, home visiting, or after school programs. Yet there are now more than 3,000 of them working with more than 2 million people annually. So, why are so many public and private funders at the state, county, city, and community levels choosing to invest in FRCs? Simply put, FRCs are just a good idea. They are cost effective, highly adaptable, or have high adaptability for various communities, be they urban, rural, or ethnic, and have demonstrated successful outcomes through multiple external evaluations. As conveniently located hubs, they bundle and co-locate many services that may be familiar to you, such as home visiting, evidence-based parenting education, health screenings, play groups, fatherhood programs, family counseling, and food banks. Because FRCs are shaped by and responsive to their communities, we often say, if you've seen one FRC, you've seen one FRCs. At the same time, despite their organic development, there is remarkable similarity in the most common service areas. This data comes from a national study funded by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation that the NFSN worked with a research institute to conduct. So we see the first most common service area is parenting support, which exists on a continuum from lighter touch to more intensive services. That could start with parenting workshops, going all the way through a heavier touch such as parenting education series using an evidence-based curriculum, and going all the way to the heaviest involvement being home visiting. Access to resources also exists on a continuum from lighter touch to more intensive services. They could start with enhanced information and referral, which a lot of programs actively do. Moving on in the continuum, more heavier hand would be concrete supports, working with families over time to address family identified goals, and finally, the co-location of resources being the highest engagement of that access. We also see that child development activities and parent leadership developments are some of the most common service areas. And again, with those concrete supports that are mentioned with access to resources, that could be directly provided at the program, such as clothing, food, or rental assistance. FRCs not only provide programs, but build communities of peer support for families to develop social connections that reduce isolation and stress, which are highly correlated with child abuse. We're now going to hear from Sheila Harewood from Corning, New York.
People underestimate how challenging it can be of trying to balance parenting and effective parenting, mind you, and not having a space to actually vent and communicate and learn alternate ways of rearing their children. People don't realize it is a support that they need, not once in a while, but like all the time. I could see the excitement, the smiles, and it's the same every single time they walk in the door. The staff is so friendly, the place is so inviting. So it gives us an opportunity to just like kind of brush off life and then escape into this space where they could just relax. And it nourishes us, it feeds us, and allows us to just take all of that and positive energy and do life, regardless of anyone's socioeconomic status, regardless of racial background, educational level. The need is exactly the same. It is a place, a need for a place to be able to sit down with other parents and do life together. And that is something that is so impactful. Once they have that support system in place, it has a ripple effect. And we will glean from that because our communities will thrive. The more support, I mean, it's just, it's like a domino effect.
So now that I have described FRCs and you have heard from a parent to an FRC, I'm going to launch a poll and would like to ask if you have seen programs that look like family resource centers in your state. So let us know here in the poll. All right, let's go ahead and close that poll and let's find out. Okay, so 85% of folks in the room are saying yes, your state absolutely has family resource centers. Have a small percentage saying no, and then some folks who are unsure. Two of the things that families have been most seeking support for since the pandemic had been parenting support and access to resources, which happen to be the bread and butter service of any FRC, whether it be urban, rural, school based, or community based. So FRCs more than rolled up their sleeves to help support families through the crisis. These photos illustrate some examples, such as drive-by shows of support for families in Kentucky, infant distribution in Colorado, and a virtual bilingual story time in Massachusetts. In Kentucky, the school-based FRCs took on delivery of free lunches to students while the schools themselves have closed. Some of these operations may seem really familiar to you and your programs and the efforts that you did during COVID and since. Let's look at a couple examples of state investments in FRCs since May of 2022 to present. So we have seen investments in Family Resource Center network infrastructure in Hawaii, North Carolina, and Texas. Deeper investments have been made in FRCs in Arizona, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Indiana, Maryland, New Hampshire, New York City, New York State, Oklahoma, Utah, and West Virginia. There have been new networks established in Minnesota, Nebraska, Oregon, Wyoming. And first-time investments in FRCs have been made in Kansas, Michigan, South Carolina, Virginia, and Washington. This slide, developed in partnership with Casey Family Programs, which is one of the NFSN's national partners, illustrates how FRCs work with families across the continuum of potential involvement in the child welfare system. A study showed that for every $1 invested in family resource centers, the state of Alabama received $4.93 in immediate and long-term consequential financial benefits. That is almost $5 back for every $1 invested in family resource centers. Neighborhoods with, let's see, a University of Chicago study found that neighborhoods with FRCs had 26% lower rates of child abuse and neglect investigations than similar neighborhoods without them. Teller County, Colorado is a semi-rural county outside of Colorado Springs. Since their Human Services Agency moved to a differential response system in 2016, referring screened out families to participate in FRC services on a voluntary basis, they have seen a 63% drop in their child abuse rates, and they only have one FRC in the entire county. Think of not only the huge cost savings, but the human cost savings. So many families that are now spared entry into a highly traumatizing system that no family wants to have anything to do with. And once you are in, you may never get out of. The latest data comes from research studies supported by Casey Family Programs that illustrate the specific child welfare system cost savings both in semi-rural Teller County and urban Orange County, California. In Colorado, families who participated in the Family Resource Centers demonstrated statistically significant improvements in the areas listed here on the screen, including their family function and resiliency and their health. Kentucky has 899 family resource centers, all of which are school-based, and it is the second largest network in the country. Let's take a look at what it costs to run an FRC. It does vary in relation to the local cost of living, the specific programming, and the physical space. For example, a typical community-based New Jersey Success Center has an annual budget of $240,000 to $300,000 with 3 to 4 full-time staff. A school-based family resource center in Kentucky has an annual budget of $33,000 to $82,000 with 1 to 2 full-time staff and space and other resources provided in kind. Now, FRCs are mostly funded by state, county and municipal governments. Some leverage federal funding, such as community-based child abuse prevention. And then there are foundations, corporations, individuals, and in-kind support. The Family First Act allows states to partner with community-based providers to deliver prevention services. FRCs are well positioned because they already support families before child welfare involvement. States can use FRCs as access points for kinship navigator programs when the state is implementing a federally allowable model. Many FRCs already serve kinship caregivers and coordinate local resources. And strong statewide FRC networks help states plan and implement Family First by identifying where evidence-based services already exist, supporting training and fidelity across sites, and strengthening community-level prevention capacity. Family First reimburses states for up to 12 months of approved parent skill-based mental health and substance use programs for children at risk of entering foster care. FRCs can deliver these programs if the state includes the program in its Title 4E prevention plan. In-home, in this case, simply means that the child remains with their family, not that the services must occur inside the home. Services can be delivered in community settings like FRCs. And many FRCs already offer programs listed on the Federal Clearinghouse, including Incredible Years, Healthy Families America, Motivational Interviewing, Parents as Teacher, and Triple P. When included in the state's plan, these can be reimbursable Title 4E prevention services. And New Hampshire is the first state to leverage the implementation of kinship navigator programs in FRCs. Now, looking one level up, we talk about how family resource centers are connected. Not only have cities, counties, and states hit upon the value of FRCs, but they have also hit upon the value of networking them together. Data from the national study that the NFSN worked with a research institute in Colorado on showed that the most common functions of an FRC network is to increase connectedness, coordination, cooperation, and collaboration amongst members, provide training and technical assistance, work on advocacy, policy, and legislation, and provide and maintain a shared data tracking system for the FRCs across their states. We recognize 3 stages of network development. We have emerging networks that are just getting started, determining who will be at the table and what should the focus be. Then evolving networks might be looking at further development, maybe hiring a contractor and for staff. And the network begins to have more structure and capacity to do more. We typically see this around 3 to 5 years. And I should say it can be seen between 3 to 5 years. Not every network adheres to this type of timeline that you see on the screen. And that just reflects the natural life cycle of a network. Now, established networks, which we do typically see after about 5 years, have the characteristics of having staffing and a track record of activities. One interesting characteristic of these networks is not that they establish their plan and remain the same, but rather that they have weathered crises and decided to stick together. There are 4 different types of networks. They can be volunteer coordinator, which are led by FRC directors themselves in voluntary leadership positions without paid network staff. Examples of this are in Florida and Ohio. There are funder-coordinated networks that are led by a public department or foundation that both funds and convenes the centers. Examples of this are New York and Nevada. And then nonprofit coordinated networks would be a nonprofit entity coordinates the network, providing backbone support with dedicated staffing. The nonprofit entity itself is not the network. The nonprofit may incubate the network to spin off in the future, or it may continue to coordinate it. Examples of this have been seen in Alaska, North Carolina, and Washington State. And finally, there are independent networks, which are staffed as an independent nonprofit organization that functions as a membership alliance with these members paying dues. These networks may raise and distribute funds as an intermediary, or perhaps not. And those examples can be found in Colorado and Maryland. A little about the National Family Support Network. The NFSN was co-founded by the 8 state networks of family resource centers represented on this map. For the first 4 years of its existence, the NFSN had no paid staff, and the steering committee members coordinated the work of the NFSN as volunteers on top of their jobs of running state networks. Over the last decade, the NFSN has more than quadrupled in size to now have 39 member networks in 38 states and the District of Columbia that represent more than 3,000 family resource centers that serve more than 2 million people annually. The newest networks are Oregon, who joined in early 2025, and Missouri, who joined in June of 2025. The mission of the NFSN is to promote positive outcomes for all children, families, and communities by leveraging the collective impact of state family resource center networks and championing quality family support and strengthening practices and policies. The vision is to turn the entire map that you just saw green so that all families will have access to quality family support services in their communities provided by family resource centers, supported by strong networks. The areas of NFSN work, we mainly have 3 areas. First, connecting and convening member networks to enhance their effectiveness, increasing connectedness amongst members for valuable peer learning and mutual support. We promote family support best practices and evaluation by raising awareness of what quality family support is and promoting a common language, standards, and the evaluation of it through the national implementation of the standards of quality for family strengthening and support. And our third area of work is raising the visibility of the value and impact of FRCs and FRC networks in order to strengthen and increase support for families. There's criteria for NFSN membership is just 3 main points. There must be 2 or more family resource centers coming together. They may be at any stage in network development, and there's 1 network per state currently. The dues cover a whole state regardless of the number of FRCs, and the new membership dues as well as the ongoing membership dues differentiated for those who are volunteer coordinated, and all other networks are shown here on the screen. Now, the standards of quality for family strengthening and support are designed to be used by all stakeholders, public departments, foundations, community-based organizations, and families as a tool for planning, providing, and assessing quality practice. They uniquely integrate and operationalize the principles of family support practice with the Strengthening Families approach and its research-based, evidence-informed 5 protective factors. The standards create common language and expectations across different kinds of family strengthening and support programs, such as family resource centers, home visiting programs, and child development programs. The standards help ensure that families are supported and strengthened through quality practice. The standards themselves are available along with all implementation tools for free on the NFSN website. The standards are organized into 4 areas of practice with actually 12 standards, each with foundational and high quality indicators and implementational practice. Examples. Focus on 4 core areas of practice are family centeredness, family strengthening, community strengthening, and evaluation. Here we see the most recent training map of all standard certifications that have been conducted nationwide, and we have surpassed 20,000, which is a very exciting milestone for us. The NFSN worked with its members to develop a blueprint for how to scale family resource centers and FRC networks to ensure that all families have access to quality family support and strengthening services. The NFSN publicly reports back on progress annually with a briefing event in May. Since the beginning, when the idea of starting the NFSN first emerged, the co-founders reached out to these organizations or entities that offered their support. This includes the U.S. Administration for Children, Youth, and Families, Casey Family Programs, the Center for the Study of Social Policy Strengthening Families Program, Children's Trust Fund Alliance, Families Canada, Friends National Resource Center for Community-Based Child Abuse Prevention, and Prevent Child Abuse America. These partners regularly participate in NFSN activities, including serving on each other's committees, co-sponsoring events, presenting at events, and working collaboratively on joint projects. The NFSN works collaboratively with many other organizations as well. Some of the FRC resources that can be found on the FRC page of the NFSN website include an overview of FRCs that I find very useful if you are looking to explain what an FRC is and what it does. And that is a great example that you can use for funders, for leadership, for collaborators who are unfamiliar. There are videos of family resource centers themselves, walkthrough tours. There are research reports and systems level funding information. In addition to this, we do have a webinar Wednesday library, specifically with topics surrounding family resource centers networks, advancing the field of family strengthening and support, and parent leadership development. If you go to the FRC page, if you have a curiosity regarding a certain topic, such as FRCs that are co-located with libraries, or family resource centers and their collaboration with community schools, or their work with teen parents, it is the high likelihood that there is a topic that may be of interest to you on that page related to family resource centers, with examples of what family resource centers are doing, the challenges that they face, and the ways that they're responding to their community needs. We do have a Family Resource Center Learning Hub that is a compilation of resources for those developing an individual FRC, and a network hub that has templates and documents for member networks that can be used as examples for FRC networks and funders of FRCs. The FRC Learning Hub was developed with the support of Casey Family Programs, and both of these hubs are completely free to access. So as mentioned, the FRC Network Hub is a compilation of NFSN templates and documents, and it includes two sections. One that includes network tools for FRCs themselves, so samples of the tools that networks would use with FRCs, and then network tools for the networks themselves. So this could be member agreements, network development continua, or job descriptions, and network operating guidelines as well. Another NFSN resource is our member network snapshots. You can find one for every one of the current NFSN members on our membership page. It includes an interactive map that you click on this date and you'll see one of these snapshots. It includes at-a-glance information, contact information for the leaders, and these are updated annually in the spring. Now, some of the NFSN services include facilitating connections to NFSN member networks, presenting for key stakeholders such as education leaders, child welfare leaders, children's trust funds, and other public and private funders about working with and investing in family resource centers. We provide technical assistance for FRC network development and provide trainings such as the Standards of Quality Certification Training, Connect with Effect, and Parent Voices Matter. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about those in just a moment. First, I would love to hear from folks in the chat. You have heard from me a lot, and I would love to hear from you. Based on these couple questions with this little cutie in the bee costume here on the slide, what is resonating most with you from the information that's been shared so far? And what would you be interested to explore more? So I'm going to give folks a moment to put some info in the chat here. And I also want to read something that Nadia from Wake County, North Carolina had put in the chat. Thanks, Nadia, for giving me some content to go ahead and review with the group. So I hear you, Nadia, in wanting to get involved more with NFSN and with state networks, seeing that you're in North Carolina, with your experience with DCFS, so with the state child child protective services, with advocacy groups. See how these situations are addressed separately in educational area, various areas of district judicial systems. There's an overwhelming need for support, communication, and collaboration across the board. I completely see that. There is a network in North Carolina. I very much encourage you to go to the NFSN website, click on the it's about us, members, and click on that map. Click on North Carolina. You will get in contact with some wonderful people in North Carolina. And now Andrea is there, Ashley's there, and Sharon is there as well, some folks that you can connect with. You can learn a little bit more about the programs that are about what the network's already doing in North Carolina, and you can get in contact with some of those leaders. Oftentimes, when leaders receive a question like this, I know it's true of myself, we love receiving these inquiries because it's quite possible that it's something that we are working on, that we want more people involved in, and we want more thought leadership and more feedback. So thank you so much, Nadia, for putting that information in the chat. And my contact information, folks, will also be available at the end of this too, so that you'll be able to reach out to me directly. The role of faith-based organizations, absolutely. Faith-based organizations are oftentimes incredibly involved with FRCs. Sometimes I know that there are Liberation Church in Virginia specifically, as a part of Families Forward Virginia. They come to mind immediately as having a family resource center. So there's a lot of involvement of faith-based organizations, and as we review in the standards of quality, we recognized faith as a strength of families. Absolutely. So hearing Donna, thank you, Donna, for saying this in the chat too. Donna had no clue that there were this many family resource centers across America. Absolutely. And as mentioned, they have arisen organically as needs as responses to community needs. And Cynthia learning about the Family Resource Center network in her area. When I started working for a Family Resource Center in Wisconsin, I had no idea that there was a Family Resource Center network until after I had already left the organization. Absolutely. So seeing a comment in the chat about interest in improving the sustainability of funding for FRCs, how can we advocate at the state and federal levels for annual investment that can offer a reliable base of funds to ensure sustainability of core services offered year after year? This is a fantastic comment. I'm so happy that you included it, Andrea. Thank you so much. The Family Resource Center Coalition is the steering committee arm of policy work for Family Resource Centers, working annually to advocate for family resource centers. So again, each state is doing different things. Maryland has family resource center funding in their state legislation. California does as well. I would direct you folks to the Webinar Wednesday page of the NFSN website. Under recent webinars, we just did a webinar on federal funding for blending and braiding federal funding streams, and we're going to do another one. So visit that website. You will also be on our email list, so you'll receive the next one that's happening in that series. But I also very much recommend going back to that FRC page, where you're going to also see the studies that exist right there for you. You can print off these documents, you can email them, you can use them in supporting materials for your grants, and connect in with your state network to see what their advocacy work is as well. So I can restate how many FRCs are in Kentucky, but I want to say that I feel like the number has grown. I said that there were 899, which I'm still confident that there are at least 899, but we can check that. We have actually in the What is an FRC network document that is in these materials, which I'm not going to pull up just because it'll ruin my screen share, but it listed in there. I want to say almost this year by now, they're up to 961 is a number that's coming to mind. But again, Kentucky has a school-based family resource center system that I'm personally familiar with, and they have a family resource center in every single one of their schools. So really awesome work by that network. And Tennessee also has a school-based network of family resource centers, as does Connecticut, who's a completely volunteer-based network. Yes. The realization of how closely connected family resource centers to child welfare, family first, and primary prevention efforts. Absolutely. And Felipe, I see a call for a link to the map. Will you visit the NFSN website, go to that members page, and just link the members page for folks here? Charter and traditional school involvement, absolutely. Oh, for Kentucky specifically, this is within their public school system. Another great way to explore this would be to look at the webinar on community school involvement. In my experience in Wisconsin, I worked for we were a public charter schools. We were part of the public school system, but we were a charter, and we were connected with an organization, a nonprofit organization that also had a family resource center. Really great engagement, and thank you so much, Felipe. Just drop the link to the NFSN website to where you can see the interactive map. Click on those pages, or I'm sorry, on the states themselves, and have that snapshot pop up. Felipe, on second thought, will you also link the Webinar Wednesday page, please? And thank you. Folks, thank you so much for your amazing engagement in the chat. I always love the buzz session. Let's wrap up here. I want to provide some more resources to you folks and make sure, oh, let me look too. I see one. I see a question in the Q&A as well. Is there a way to find hours in your state? There is a way. The best way to find out would be go to that snapshot. It might depend on your state. And Tiana, feel free to drop what your state is in the chat as well. I may be familiar with it. It may depend on your state. If your state network is more advanced in their development, they may have an interactive map, such as Wisconsin has, which is an established network, has an interactive map of where their FRCs are located. And then some states may not have that, but the folks that run the network absolutely have that information. But like I said, feel free to drop in, Tiana, what your state is as well. Wanted to let you folks know that we will have a webinar coming up in February of next year. Registration will be open very soon, but this is a webinar that will explore 6 FRC models that are lifting up kin caregivers and grand families. So the connection here between FRCs and kinship families. Oh, and Annette, I'm seeing here in the chat as well. Let me know what state you're in. I might be able to let you know a little bit of history. Sometimes the networks go through a natural life cycle, and there could be a budding network there, or there could have been a network that has since, maybe dormant for a little bit. That sometimes happens. Let's see. Annette is in Arkansas. Yes, correct. Yes, there is no network there yet. Doesn't mean that there aren't FRCs for sure. Oklahoma, Jana, definitely has a FRC network. California has a really robust FRC network. Minnesota has one that's based off of counties and the county connection, which is pretty unique in terms of the FRC networks. Oregon is one of our newest members. Colorado has an established network. They are totally independent. There is a FRC network in Ohio. All of the whole FRC network in Ohio, which is volunteer based, is completely entrenched in kinship. So that is everything that they do. And Pennsylvania, thank you, Stacy, for dropping your state in here. Pennsylvania has a newly established FRC network. Pennsylvania is a great example of a state that had in years past a coordinated FRC network. The coordination for that evolved, changed. That particular network went dormant, and a new network has evolved. So just because a network doesn't exist does not mean that the work is not happening. And there is work happening in New Mexico for sure. Do I know of any FRCs or FOCs that are implementing the Help Me Grow Early Childhood Systems model? That is a great question. I do not know. I've heard of it, but I do not know. West Virginia is not currently a part of the network, but they have been historically, and there is good FRC work happening in West Virginia for sure. And there is a volunteer network in Florida. Yes. And on the NFSN FRC page, there is a tour of some of the FRCs specifically in Florida. And there absolutely is a network in New Hampshire. New Hampshire is the first state to do work with Families First and Kinship. and throughout their network. And New Hampshire has a number of great resources for family resource centers that are co-located in incarceration facilities and provide services to families that have loved ones that are residents of incarceration facilities. I've got another question here. Would there be any sort of shareable list on social media handles for all FRCs across the states? That is a great question. And there is not. In short, there is not a shareable list of the social media handles. It is something that would be wonderful to compile, but it isn't something that we've had the capacity for. I think one great way to start, family resource centers specifically are all over Facebook. They are all over Facebook. I would type in Family Resource Center, and then also find your network. Start by finding your network, and then you know that you'll start to get those suggestions. And then you might see, oh, okay, California, and then see Colorado and New Hampshire and New Jersey. Are there resources on the page to start an FRC? Yes. So the FRC Learning Hub is going to be a great step for you because it's going to show you those stages of network development, and it's also going to provide corresponding materials and examples and templates for getting an FRC started. Absolutely. How common are FRC supports available to incarcerated individuals? That's awesome. I'm not sure about the availability of those in Pennsylvania, so I don't want to discredit anyone that is doing that work. I know for sure that New Hampshire is doing it. I'm unsure of other states. I know that at least one other state would come to mind, but I'm not thinking of where specifically right now. I haven't seen it as one of the most common supports. However, what I have seen as a common support of family resource centers is identifying marginalized communities whose voices are needed to uplift. And those are the communities that family resource centers organically support. Oh, in the chat, seeing that Patty said that she served as the backbone organization for Help Me Grow in South Texas. So answer there. And Green Bay, Wisconsin was doing Help Me Grow work as well. See, this is why I love the buzz sessions, because there's always information that folks have in the room to answer some of the questions here. So really love that peer sharing. This is, as I mentioned, a crucial area of work for the NFSN is to convene for peer sharing and mutual support. You will absolutely. So thank you, Tiana. The recording will be available by this time tomorrow on our website. Oh, I'm sorry, Andrea. Thank you for correcting me. Green Bay was doing work with family members that had loved ones that are residents of incarceration facilities. Thank you. Okay, folks, I am going to put my chat on my other screen, and I'm going to let you know in our last 10 minutes here a couple other opportunities. So I mentioned a couple of trainings that is core to the NFSM. We have coming up in January, Parent Voices Matter, which is cultivating resilient parent advisory committees. You can register for this one by January 6th. Now, we really recommend that this one be taken with folks from your program, including leaders. The note on here that this one reports that 96% of participants report improved skills to successfully develop and sustain parent advisory committees, which we recognize as crucial to healthy and impactful support programs. Opportunities there for you to register for those trainings in January and March. We also have outreach training, Connect with Effect. That's going to happen also in January and again in March. This is developed in response to family resource centers who wanted to better understand outreach within the context of effective engagement with families and the ability to develop an outreach plan. And finally, we do have our open standard certification trainings. That is going to happen in February of next year. Our December one is all full, so go ahead and sign up for that. My contact information is here for you folks. Again, thank you so much for your engaged participation today. The access to the materials and the link to this recording will be on our Webinar Wednesday page by this time tomorrow. You will also begin to receive updates for future webinars and events. We very much look forward to seeing you again in the future. Thank you all so much and take care.